Acharya Shota Sata Shri Srimad Abhayacharnaravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Ashtota Sata Shri Srimad Abhayacharnaravindra Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Acharya Ashtota Sata Shri Srimad Srila Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपी गो श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मथुरा धाम की जय, मायापुर धाम की जय, नवदीप धाम की जय, गंगा मई की जय, यमुना मई की जय, भक्ति देवी की जय, तुलसी महारानी की जय, समवेता भक्त वृंद की जय। Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu-Padaya. Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vidasa Swami Pina. Vishnu-Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami. नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। तस्य एवं रममाणस्य संवत्सर गणान् बहून् गृहमेधिषु योगेषु विरागः समजायत। तस्यैवं रममाणस्य संवत्सरगणान् बहून् गृहमेधिषु योगेषु विरागः समजायत। तस्यैवं रममाणस्य संवत्सरगणान् बहून् गृहमेधेषु योगेषु विरागः समजायत। Please repeat. तस्यैवं रममाणस्य संवत्सरगणान् बहून् गृहमेधेषु योगेषु viraga samajayata tasyaivam ramamanasya samvatsaraganan bahun grihamedheshu yogeshu viraga samajayata tasyaivam ramamanasya samvatsaraganan bahun grihamedheshu yogeshu viraga samajayata tasyaivam ramamanasya samvatsaraganan bahun grihamedheshu yogeshu viraga samajayata. Mataji's. Tasyaivam ramamanasya samvatsaraganan bahun grihamedheshu yogeshu viraga samajayata tasyaivam ramamanasya samvatsaraganan bahun grihamedheshu yogeshu viraga samajayata tasyaivam ramamanasya samvatsaraganan bahun grihamedheshu yogeshu viraga samajayata tasya his evam thus ramamanasya enjoying samvatsara years ganan many bahun great many grihamedheshu in household life yogeshu in sex life viragaha attachment samajayata awakened. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. The Lord was thus engaged in household life for many, many years, but at last his detachment from ephemeral sex was fully manifested. Purport. Even though the Lord is never attached to any kind of material sex life, as the universal teacher, he remained a householder for many, many years, just to teach others how one should live in householder life. Srila Vishnu-Citta Prabhu Thakur explains that the word samajayata means fully exhibited. In all his activities, while present on the earth, the Lord exhibited detachment. This was fully displayed when he wanted to teach by example that one should not remain attached to household life for all the days of one's life. One should naturally develop detachment as a matter of course. The Lord's detachment from household life does not indicate detachment from his eternal associates, the transcendental cowherd damsels. But the Lord desired to end his so-called attachment to the three modes of material nature. He can never be detached from the service of his transcendental associates like Rukmini and other goddesses of fortune, as described in Brahma Samhita 529, Lakshmi Sahasra Shatashambra Masevyamanam. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Supadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Tasyaivam ramamanasya samvatsara ganan bahun grihamedheshu yogeshu viragas samajayata. The Lord was thus engaged in household life for many, many years, but at last his detachment from ephemeral sex life was fully manifested. So, here Uddhava is recollecting the different pastimes of the Supreme Lord, and here he is getting close to the part describing the Supreme Lord's disappearance. He's coming close to that section, and he is explaining that the Supreme Lord, after some time in household life, he manifests detachment from, as the translation goes, from ephemeral sex life was fully manifested. And so the Supreme Lord, as Srila Prabhupada says here, is never attached to any kind of material sex life. But as the universal teacher, he remained a householder for many, many years just to teach others how one should live in householder life. So Krishna stresses this point in Bhagavad Gita also. Yat yat acharati shreshtas tattat evetero janaha sayat pramanam kurate lokas tat anuvartate. So this is a famous verse that whatever great men do, the common men will follow. And therefore it's important for great men to set an example. And then Krishna gives examples of Janaka. Astika Janakadayaha Loka Sangraham Evapi Samparsham Kartum Arhasi. That even though great Janak Maharaj is a Mahajan is like Prahlad Maharaj, you can see. So, example of Prahlad Maharaj, at the age of 5, he had no attachment. He was fully liberated soul. From the womb, he was liberated. It's very interesting that Srila Prabhupada, that Prahlad Maharaj, following the duty, he got married. He ruled as the emperor of the Daityas, and then he had a son named Virochana, who then gave birth to a great devotee, Bali Maharaj, and like this we see. But actually, Prahlad Maharaj, he didn't have to marry. He is a fully liberated soul. But the examples of the Mahajans are given because they set an example for others to follow. Like Ambarish Maharaj, others, they show by example. Why do show by example? Because that's the mood of the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord himself does that. Now, Supreme Lord doesn't need to do it. He could. Why does he have to do it? He is not, as Srila Prabhupada writes here, but the Lord desired to end his so-called attachment to the three modes of material nature. Means the Supreme Lord doesn't actually have any attachment to the three modes of material nature. Daivi Esha Guname Mama Maya Duratyaya. That the three modes of material nature, they are completely under Krishna's control, and he has nothing to do with them. They are under his control, and it's the living entities who are bewildered by the three modes of material nature, not Krishna himself. So why does he have to sever detachment from it? There is no reason, but the reason is Loka Sangraham Evapi, to set an example for others. The Supreme Lord has this mood. He has this mood that through his actions he sets an example. Even in his, even as Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, what is he? He is supreme enjoyer. In fact, the understanding of Krishna and his pastimes does not become complete unless we understand that he is actually the enjoyer. Therefore, he doesn't have to follow. But even in Vrindavan, he sets an example. Even in Vrindavan, there are so many things he does to teach others. Of course, he is engaged in his pastimes with his associates, as we see here in Dwaraka also, and he is enjoying. But many of the things that Krishna does is to set an example for others to follow, because he is Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is ultimately the leader of all the living entities. And therefore, all of his devotees are also leaders. And this is an important point to understand, because often being a leader is misidentified as being a manager. A manager is one kind of a leader. He is not the only type of leader. A mother is also a leader for her children. The parents are leaders for their children. The teacher is a leader for his disciples. The older people are leaders. The older brother is a leader for the younger siblings. And in this way, this emphasis of setting a right example is found throughout Vedic culture. There is, and this is very important to understand in this context, because we are speaking of retirement from family life. Now, it's to teach one how to live in householder life. So there are two ways to look at this. One is to understand why one should retire, and then one can understand why one should retire even when family life is so-called perfect. So so I wanted to go over several quotes of Srila Prabhupada in this regard. So this is from Canto 1, Chapter 13, Text 24. Right? So Srila Prabhupada, this is Vidura instructing Dhritarashtra. Vidura instructing Dhritarashtra, 1:13:24. So Dhritarashtra, what is he doing? He's sitting in Hastinapura. He is enjoying the comforts offered by Yudhishthir Maharaj. Why is Yudhishthir Maharaj offering him comforts? Because Yudhishthir Maharaj, he has affection for Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra never had affection for the Pandavas. But the Pandavas, being cultured people, they have affection for Dhritarashtra, even though Dhritarashtra and his sons tortured them so much, and also it is because of their scheming that the Kurukshetra war happened, and because of that their own sons were killed. All of the sons, the Pandavas lost all of their sons. There wasn't even a single son left. All of their sons were killed in the battle and then butchered, at the end of the battle. Only one grandson, Parikshit Maharaj, is remaining. So they lost all their sons, but still they were showing respect to Dhritarashtra. And Dhritarashtra, being this, this thick-skinned sense enjoyer who he's always been throughout his life, was shamelessly accepting all that worship and just enjoying life. So Vidura comes to awaken him and says many harsh things. So so the verse that Vidura says, there is no need to live a degraded life and subsist on the charity of those whom you tried to kill by arson and poisoning. You also insulted one of their wives and usurped their kingdom and wealth. So Prabhupada, in the purport, he says, Vidura wanted to point out and impressed upon him that it was better to die like his sons than accept such humiliating charity. 5,000 years ago there was one Dhritarashtra, but at the present moment there are Dhritarashtras in every home. Politicians especially do not retire from political activities unless they are dragged by the cruel hand of death or killed by some opposing element. To stick to family life to the end of one's life is the grossest type of degradation, and there is an absolute need for Viduras to educate such Dhritarashtras even at the present moment. So note that point that Srila Prabhupada is saying, that to stick to family life to the end of one's human life is the grossest type of degradation. That's really heavy statement here that Srila Prabhupada is making, is the grossest type of degradation. Why? Because, we'll go on, Prabhupada, we're getting to this. I wanted to, build it up. It's always nice to just quote Prabhupada and just build up the scene that, Prabhupada, he's so expert. So, 1:15:37. Now the Pandavas are retiring. Okay? So, Prabhupada says here, so just go to the purport and go towards the end. So it said that the Pandavas are eternal companions of the Lord. You see that? Yeah, okay. Pandavas are eternal companions of the Lord, and therefore they are more interested in the company of the Lord than anything else. Besides that, being an ideal king, Maharaj Yudhishthira wanted to retire just to set an example for others. As soon as there is some young fellow to look after the household affairs, one should at once retire from family life to uplift oneself to spiritual realization. One should not rot in the dark well of household life until one is dragged out by the will of Yamaraj. Modern politicians should take lessons from Maharaj Yudhishthira about voluntary retirement from active life and should make room for the younger generation. Also, retired old gentlemen should take lessons from him and leave home for spiritual realization before forcefully dragged away to meet death. So, family life is abominable not just because there is attachment to sex, and that is there, and just because of that one should retire. Because ultimately, if one has been trained properly, one will understand that actually there was no need to enter family life in the first place. This realization has to be there, that ultimately family life is a compromise that is allowed by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead for us to elevate ourselves to the platform of becoming finally detached from these things. What do we have to become detached for? What is there in family life that you don't find in celibate life?
Wealth.
Huh? Wealth. Then? Association of the opposite sex. And that's the main thing. That there is association of opposite sex. By the association of the opposite sex, what do you get? You get children, you get home, you get wealth, you get relatives, you get friends, you get some kind of occupation.
Money.
Money. What does this give one? Sense gratification. Yes, sense gratification. So that gratification is the position of who? Sense gratification is desired by what kind of a person? Demoniac, yes, correct. But what else, huh? The materialist. Materialists are sense enjoyers. Sense gratification is desired by the sense enjoyers. Prabhupada uses this word, sense enjoyer. Why sense enjoyer? Because that mentality that I am the enjoyer is not gone yet. That is the main problem. This is the main reason why we are in the material world. We still have this mentality that we are the enjoyer. And you can't facilitate much enjoyment when you're celibate. Unless you want to be straight up sinful, which most people don't mind in today's day and age. But if you become a devotee, then you are expected not to engage in sinful sense gratification. So a devotee cannot live irresponsibly and lie down with the members of the opposite sex, every day or every other day, different person, and enjoy life like this unrestrictedly. So when you become a devotee, you are asked to stop the 4 pillars of sinful activities. Now then, when a devotee still has that tendency to enjoy, because they haven't become purified completely, okay, because they haven't completely given up that desire to enjoy, they still have some desire to enjoy, and that desire, it's not necessarily gross sex, but it's subtle sex in the form of wealth, home, just being able to feel like one is in control, one is in charge. Because you see, the other 3 ashrams, when you are brahmachari, vanaprastha or sannyasi, you are under the scrutiny of the public all the time. They are always scrutinizing you. Whether you are a brahmachari, the moment one gets married, immediately there is more freedom available. In the sense that, what is that freedom? Actually, it is not freedom, because one has to get a job, or one has to have some kind of occupation, family life, children. Actually, there is more restriction. But there is not a person, there is no authority, and one has some privacy. Vanaprastha, sannyasi, brahmachari, there is no privacy. If you are privacy, you are a rascal. What private? There is nothing to be private about. The moment there is privacy, there is gone. Any person who is living in an ashram as a celibate, they should be able to give their phone to anybody, and they should be able to read all the messages, no problem. But if you have one passcode for entering the phone, another passcode for each app, and then there's a passcode for each chat, if something is really wrong with you. What are you hiding? What is there to hide? Now a grihastha can hide. He can put 5 locks, but and there is nothing sinful about it. That is the point. Why? Because there is some allowance for a devotee to enjoy his senses in a manner that ultimately helps him to come out of that position of sense gratification without becoming degraded by sinful activity. This is the point. Because if the desire to enjoy is there and he's not able to give it up and he doesn't have an outlet for it, after being trained also, he still has that desire, then it is better to honorably enter family life and take up family duties and responsibilities so that one doesn't sinfully try to enjoy one's senses, but one follows it in accordance to scripture and guru, and in that way make progress. So, one who is trained, one has a proper understanding, will come to the realization that when one becomes old, I entered this family life because I wanted to enjoy. What did I enjoy? Did I enjoy anything? So let's see what Prabhupada says. Go to 5:13:8. Canto 5, chapter 13, text 8. Okay. So I'm going to just go to the purport, the first paragraph. Srila Vishnu-Citta Prabhu, as stated in the previous verse, the happiness derived from society, friendship and love is like a drop of water in the scorching heat of the desert. One may want to become very great and powerful in society, but this is like attempting to climb a hill full of thorns. Srila Vishnu-Citta Prabhu compares one's family to high mountains. Becoming happy in their association is like a hungry man's endeavor to climb a mountain full of thorns. A hungry man's endeavor to climb a mountain full of thorns. When you're hungry and your food is available on top of a mountain which you have to cross, which is full of thorns, it's very, very difficult when you and this is where it's really, almost 99.9% of the population is unhappy in family life. You note that number? 99.9%. Oh, by the way, devotees are part of the population in the material world. So, it includes devotees. FYI, Despite all the attempts being made to satisfy the family members. In the Western countries, due to the dissatisfaction of the family members, there is actually no family life. There are many cases of divorce, and out of dissatisfaction, the children leave the protection of their parents. Especially in this age of Kali, family life is being reduced. Everyone is becoming self-centered because that is the law of nature. Even if one has sufficient money to maintain a family, the situation is that no one is happy in family life. Consequently, according to the Varnashrama institution, one has to retire from family life in middle age. Panchashordhvam vanam vrajet. One should voluntarily retire from family life at the age of 50 and go to Vrindavan or a forest. This is recommended by Srila Prahlad Maharaj. Tat sadhu manye suravarya dehi nam sada samudvigna diyama sadgrahat hitvatmapatam gruhamandakupam vanam gatoya dharimashrayeta. There is no benefit in transferring from one forest to another. One must go to the Vrindavan forest and take shelter of Govinda. That will make one happy. The International Society of Krishna Consciousness is therefore constructing a Krishna Balaram Mandir to invite its members as well as outsiders to come and live peacefully in a spiritual atmosphere. That will help one become elevated to the transcendental world and return home back to Godhead. Another sentence in this verse is significant. Kutumbikaha krudiyati vai janaya. When one's mind is disturbed in so many ways, he satisfies himself by becoming angry with his poor wife and children. This is a very important point to note. When one's mind is disturbed in so many ways, one satisfies himself by becoming angry with his poor wife and children. The wife and children are naturally dependent on the father, but the father, being unable to maintain the family properly, becomes mentally distressed and therefore chastises the family members unnecessarily. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 12:8, Achinna dhara dravina yasyanti giri kananam. Being disgusted with family life, one separates from the family by divorce or some other means. If one has to separate, why not separate willingly? Systematic separation is better than forced separation. Forced separation cannot make anyone happy. But by mutual consent or by Vedic arrangement, one must separate from his family affairs at a certain age and fully depend on Krishna. This makes one life successful. You can just churn so much out of this purport. But the point is that unfortunately, because the living entity has this conditioned living entity has a desire to enjoy, he is not willing to give up the feeling of being the enjoyer. He is not willing to completely be enjoyed by Krishna. He wants Krishna to enjoy him, but he also wants to enjoy separately from Krishna. This is the position of a conditioned soul who is trying to practice Krishna consciousness but unable to give up some of his material attachments. So, in that state, what is he trying to do when he enters family life? What is the hope? Why is there hope? Because the hope is, I'll somehow make some things perfect and I'll somehow live a happy life. Now, if there is no happiness, why is someone going to do anything? We all do everything aiming to become happy. Even to enter family life, one is attempting to become happy. But what is that happiness? The general misconception is that happiness will come by material arrangements. One who is actually a devotee, even if he is entering family life and he understands that he has to enter family life, he enters family life in the proper consciousness that I am only going to be happy if myself and my wife and my whole family will be Krishna conscious. Otherwise there is no happiness. I can make hundreds of material arrangements, but none of this is going to make me happy. But the conditioned soul thinks that by making arrangements, he'll become happy. Now, as a practicing devotee, even though they may have this concept, because of conditioning, they may also try to make arrangements. And that is natural. And some arrangements have to be made. But the arrangements many times are influenced or tinged with a desire to control the situation. And when the grihastha, after many attempts of controlling the situation, should come to the realization that actually all my attempts have failed and I'm still frustrated. That frustration is inevitable, because otherwise how come 99.9% of the population is unhappy in family life? Because there is frustration. And they have to realize Hare Krishna. They have to realize that this frustration cannot be solved by material arrangements. That the frustration can only be solved when I cease to become the enjoyer. When one understands that one ceases to become the enjoyer, what is left to do? If one understands that one has to stop being the enjoyer, what does one have to do? You have to surrender. Surrender means? What do you have to do when you surrender? No, you renounce sense gratification. What? So you serve Krishna, you give pleasure to Krishna, you take Krishna's interest. That means you have to serve Krishna. You have to execute devotional service. Now, it's not that the devotee didn't execute devotional service in grihastha life. But if one is still engaged in occupational duties, if one is still engaged in maintaining the family members, if one is still engaged in earning livelihood to maintain one's body, then one is still influenced by the misconception that even after, this is of course, we are speaking of retirement, which means that the family members no longer need to be maintained by oneself. And therefore Srila Prabhupada is saying here that systematic separation is better than forced separation, which means that there is systematic planning in Vedic culture that you are going to make your family in such a way that you're going to raise your children and things like this, such a way that they take over the household affairs at some point of time so that you can give up. Not that one executes family life in such a way that there is no training
for the children or anybody else to take over one's affairs. And this is a problem, because those who are not planning to give up sense gratification, they don't plan to give up their family life. They don't, when it means family life, specifically it refers to occupational duties. This is very important. That if one, after becoming old and after the children have grown up, if one is still engaged in earning livelihood for oneself, then why? Aren't the cats living? Aren't the dogs living? Aren't the elephants and the birds living? After all of these years, and after all the education one has had in Krishna consciousness, still at that age one is thinking, I have to make money. I still have to earn to survive. Why? Therefore the training is there, that when you, therefore brahmachari life, the brahmachari ashram, you don't have any money, but you are serving and you are surviving. Now, therefore it requires one to become renounced, because unless you are simple, you cannot maintain yourself. If you want a big mansion, you want all these comforts and this and that, then you have to earn money. So at that age, when one becomes old, one has to be willing to simplify one's life. And one has to have developed some level of exemplary character. Because you have to become a leader. A leader doesn't mean that you have to have 10,000 disciples. A leader doesn't mean that one has to be an amazing manager or a great cook or something like this, that where one is like outshining everyone. No, that's not what is being spoken about. One should exhibit visible spiritual attachment and serving Krishna. And one performs that service. There are many humble devotees who live in the dham and things like this, and they perform one service all the time, and they are continuing to perform that service. Retired life, vanaprastha life, doesn't mean a life where one just does nothing and one does not execute activity. At the stage of 50, one still has some energy. 50, 55, whatever that may be, one still has some energy in the body. And Prabhupada, in another place, maybe we will come to that, he says that at the age of 50, one should retire from family life to conserve energy. Why do you conserve energy? Because at this point, if you continue to spend energy, you become so old and frail that you are unable to perform devotional service. You work too hard. At that age, your body is starting to deteriorate. It's time to stop activities that shouldn't be executed, especially material activities of occupation should be stopped, so that one preserves one's energy to do what? To do service. So one is only engaging in service. And one does it in a regulated manner. Because at that time, one should have had two things. Not only is one having the experience of family life, but also one should have become spiritually mature to the extent that one is regulated. Somewhat regulated. So then one can practice. And through example, and those who are older in Vedic society, they are always expected to give instruction to those who are younger. You know, even if you are not a great Pandit, then you don't have to be a Pandit. You can still give instruction. You can still show by example, through renunciation, by living a simple life. You may have been a very wealthy person before, but when you become vanaprastha, you are very simple. You hardly have any possessions. I remember one good example that comes to my mind is Haripad Prabhu and his wife. Haripad Prabhu was a diamond merchant. Yeah. He was a jewelry merchant. He was selling jewelry. He made a lot of money. But after his children grew up and his children became independent of him, he didn't feel any need to continue his work anymore. He had some savings, he had some money, and so he started traveling. And I visited him. This was probably in 2014, maybe 2013 or 14 in Udupi. And he was living in this simple hut. It's like a mud house with a thatched roof in Udupi. Very simple place. And little electricity, little, light, something. And he was cooking when the kitchen was, the whole house is probably like twice the size of this stage. That's it. It had one room where there were two beds, one for him and his wife, and there was a kitchen. And there was a small, little seat where you can sit, and you come and you sit there. That's it. Very simple. And he was growing vegetables and things like this. Very simple. I was so inspired. I was like, wow. Because I know he made a lot of money. And with all that money, he could have lived royal. And that's the misconception of retirement in today's world. In today's day and age, you see all these retirement advertisements, and they say retire, and they have this, old man and woman in a cruise ship. Disgusting, degraded, abominable. This is not retired life. And therefore, when one goes to Vrindavan, and you see that, nowadays in Vrindavan, there's many retired people from Delhi building big, big mansions. And they live there and, they have 10 servants, luxury car, and maybe they even have a swimming pool. There was a golf course in Govardhan. What's a golf course doing? It's not people who are working, because there's no jobs in Vrindavan. You have to go to Delhi. These are retired people playing golf in Vrindavan. Nonsense. Nonsense. Yes, in the house they will have, they'll have Lala. Kanaya Lal will be there. And they'll do all puja, this, that, everything, and then afternoon go play golf. This is not retired life. This is not the kind of retired life. It means that even after experiencing, enough, even after chewing that has been already chewed, they still don't have any realization that this family life is actually abominable. All these, because they have not got out of the misconception that they are an enjoyer. They still think that they are enjoying. They still think that they have to enjoy. And this example of retirement is what the Supreme Lord is showing. Who could enjoy more than the Supreme Lord? 16,108 wives, a palace for each of them. And 10, 11 children through each of them. 10 daughters, 1 son. Right? Through each of them. Is the other way around. 10 daughters, 10 sons, 1 daughter. 10 sons, 1 daughter. Through each of them. And they all were living there. And apart from that, his Ugrasena is there. All the other members are there. All of them are there. Rohini Devi is there. Their mother is there. Like this. What could be more enjoyable than that? The opulence. Still, Supreme Lord exhibits detachment. This is to teach example. To teach example that Supreme Lord is showing that even and this is the same thing with devotees. It's not for the Pandavas, their family life was fully transcendental and fully Krishna conscious. They were never thinking that they were the enjoyers at any point of time. And they could have continued living in such opulence. There was no need for Yudhishthir Maharaj to leave his 4 brothers and wife, Draupadi. There was no need. There was no need. But still he did that. Why? As Srila Prabhupada is writing here, to show an example. And one other point, go to Hare Krishna, Haribol, 9:19:2. 9:19:2. Okay. So this is, the story of Yayati. So Yayati is saying, my dear beloved wife, daughter of Shukracharya, is telling Devayani, in this world there is someone exactly like me. Please listen as I narrate the history of this life. By hearing about the life of such a householder, those who have retired from householder life always lament. So Prabhupada continues, those who live in the village or town are called Grama Nivasi, and those who live in the forest are called Vanavasi or Vanaprastha. The Vanaprasthas who have retired from family life generally lament about their past family life because it engaged them in trying to fulfill lusty desires. So this is a very, very important point, that the characteristic of those who are in Vanaprastha life, the characteristic of those who are renounced is they lament their family life. Not that they glorify it. Not that they think it was wonderful. No. There is nothing The thing is, actually, we are meant to fully dedicate our lives to Krishna. We are meant to do nothing other than service to Krishna. Now, on account of us wanting to fulfill certain lusty desires, we got married. And that is always a lamentable thing. Any form of sense gratification that we have engaged in, whether it is before devotional service or after devotional service, is lamentable. It should be lamented. One should lament that sense gratification. Otherwise, one just normalizes it. Oh, yeah, it's okay. It's okay. What's the problem? Even if one, out of temptation, say one was very attached to watching football, and suddenly, out of temptation, something comes and one stands. Maybe it's, while one is walking on the street, in the store, there's a football match playing, and then one stops and watches for it for like 5-10 minutes. And then you realize, what the hell, Maya, like this. One should lament that. It was sense gratification. A devotee eventually reaches the point where even one is taking prasadam, honoring it as the mercy of the Supreme Lord and taking it for one's bodily maintenance, not trying to enjoy that prasadam. We have to come to that stage. Until we have this misconception that we are the enjoyers, we are never going to go back to Godhead. And therefore, one has to lament the position of being an enjoyer, and one has to retire from sense gratification. It is not that just because we are devotees, we don't need to do this. This is a big, big misconception. Yes, there is a statement where Srila Prabhupada says that if the wife is very favorable to one's Krishna consciousness, one does not need to retire from family life. Still, we see examples. Was not Draupadi conducive for Yudhishthir Maharaj's Krishna consciousness? Why did he retire? Because there is no need for one's personal spiritual life. There may not be a need, but to set an example, one should do it. There was no need for Yudhishthir Maharaj, but he did it. There was need for Dhritarashtra. So that's why we saw both examples. Dhritarashtra forced. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada, here, I'll just read another quote. You can pull this up because this is from a conversation. This is December 17, 1973. Srila Prabhupada says, okay. At the present moment, people retire by force or by some way. They do not know the ultimate goal of life. The ultimate goal of life is to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because in your busy life, you have got very little time. Therefore, after Grihastha life, 50 years, up to, not more than that, Panchashordam Vanam Vrajet, then you must retire. It doesn't matter whether you have finished your duty or not. It doesn't matter. You must retire. And then, after being trained for some time, being retired from family life, living secluded life, not exactly secluded, but detached from family life. Let the elderly sons, daughters, they can take care of the family. And the husband, wife, they travel to different places of pilgrimage. Again, they come for some time, but without any attachment, as guests in the house of his son. In this way, when he is trained up, then he says to the wife, now you live with your sons, they will take care of you. I am taking sannyas. So, this is another important point. The excuse that I've heard, especially many devotees, of course karmis, but here Prabhupada is speaking about devotees. I still have duties. Who's going to take care of this? Who's going to do that? Prabhupada, whether you finished your duty or not, give it up. Give it up. You had so many. Didn't you spend 50 years trying to do your duty? If you haven't figured it out in 50 years of your life, you're not going to figure it out anymore. Give it up. This is an important point to understand. No. At the age of 75, I'm still figuring out my duties. I still have duty. Let the younger generation take care. When you die, who is going to take care? And this is true even for those who are engaged in heavy managerial positions within the society of Krishna consciousness. There is a time to retire from that also. Because there is a lot of work and activity. And while that is devotional service, there is no doubt about that. There is a need for the younger generation to take up those responsibilities. But older people, because the position of management is a position of power, it is a position of wealth, and that leads to politics. And so one can be compared to a politician who doesn't want to give up, because the politicians, that's what, I want to serve the country, and they glorify that. I try to serve the country till my last breath, I'm in my office. Prabhupada is degraded. You're old, you're frail. So many people come in the current United States. There are so many, including the head of the government. Geriatricians. It's this kind of old people. You are struggling to function. You're struggling to speak. Your body parts are failing. Still you are putting 5-year plan. What plan? The plan is to chant Hare Krishna and read Prabhupada's books and develop some taste. And give up this idea that we are the doers. We're doing nothing. And the world will function even when we are not there. Whatever we have done so far, let that be. That is good. Then one should give up. One has to give way to the younger generation. And yeah, they will make mistakes. Let them make mistakes. They will learn. Everything is not going to be perfect. But sometimes one may realize that actually they are doing a better job than me. That also happens. They're actually doing a better job, and that is inspirational. And then one can give guidance from one's position of experience, detached. Just like here, the husband and wife, they visit family. And when they visit the family, they may counsel the children, they may counsel the grandchildren, they may play with the grandchildren, they may associate a little bit, but detached. Then again they leave. So this is very important, that beyond the age of 50, one has to plan one's life in such a way that after the age of 50, one is starting to take a leadership role in instructing others. Either, definitely one has to instruct by one's example. And if one is capable, one must also instruct through instructions. This is very important. This is Vedic culture, this is society. This is devotion. You see all the devotees doing this. Prahlad Maharaj was an example from his womb. At the age of 5 he was instructing. Okay, we are not like that. But through example we can instruct. So this is very important. I've seen in Sri Vaishnava culture, this is still somewhat present. That it's there. That those were, they, unfortunately, because of the way society is now, there many of these Brahmins, even if they want to, they cannot perform pujari service in temples and things like that, because they can't even feed themselves. There's no support from the government or people, and it's getting better now in some ways, because there's a revival of interest, but especially in the 70s, 80s, 90s, things were very bad, very bad. India was very influenced by atheism and Mayavad. But Bhakti Vikas Maharaj says this has all changed because of the massive distribution of Prabhupada's books. There's a more revival of the religious sense. So temples are being more populated, there are more donations going on, so more people are able to do this. But the point is that many times these people, they may be highly learned, working because they're Sri Vaishnava Brahmins, very intelligent, they would have worked a job. They will retire, go back to their hometown and serve the deity, because now they have enough money, and they'll go back to performing pujari service, what their ancestors did. And some of them take sannyas. Even today. There's one person I know in New York. There's a sannyasi up there. He was a neurosurgeon from the 80s, made a lot of money in the US. And his family still lives here, his children still live here, and his wife lives with his sons in the US. And he moved to Vanaprastha and was going to different places of pilgrimage with his wife and trying to build this temple in New York. And then when the temple was built, he took sannyas. And even now he's involved, but he's not directly involved in the management. There's a board of directors and he's there guiding, because he started the temple. But he's not directly involved. He doesn't have any voting power or nothing. I asked him, how could you do that? You open the temple, what if they vote you out of existence? He's like, so okay. If that's what they want to do, if that's what the Supreme Lord wants, so let it happen. I've tried to do my best. So they take sannyas, so this culture is still there. And his wife cannot come and see him. His sons come and see him, but his wife cannot come and see him because he's taken sannyas. It's very nice to see these kind of people. They still exist. And this is the Vedic culture. And Srila Prabhupada is saying, you must retire, you must retire. So this is very important. And I couldn't address the second point about the Lord's detachment from household, does not indicate detachment from his eternal associates. But that's a simple point to understand. More could be said about that. But Prabhupada says he can never be detached from the service of his transcendental associates like Rukmini and other goddesses of fortune. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Yes.
I had a question and a comment.
Yeah.
You were talking about these retirement advertisements, and I just thought the whole concept was pretty funny because, they tell you that, when you get a job and you get married, then you'll finally be happy. But then there's these retirement advertisements where it's like, yeah, you worked hard like an ass your whole life.
Now it's time to enjoy.
Now you'll finally be able to enjoy. And so many people see this and they don't see that it's just like the carrot on the end.
Yeah, it's a good point.
That for like your whole life that they're like telling you, now you'll be able to enjoy, now you'll be happy, now you'll be happy. But really people just end up wasting their whole life. And a lot of people realize this at the time of death actually, that I went through my whole life and I didn't actually do anything.
I'm unhappy. I didn't really enjoy.
I worked so hard and I didn't get anything at the end of it. So,
it's really, and it's so apparent with these old people in the, who, especially from those who come from non-Vedic backgrounds. I remember looking, I always remember this, whenever this topic comes, I mention it. I went to Singapore and there were these old Chinese men, they called it, they had a nice fancy term for this, a senior corner, but they had something like, some nice term for senior, not make it sound like it was something like very euphemistic. And they're there with other old women, not their wives, other old, women playing card. One is sitting over there trying to, be a little romantic with and it's so obnoxious. It is so disgusting to see it. I mean, at that age, with wrinkled skin, you can't even enjoy the touch of the skin anymore. The skin, the touch of that skin that you get, when you're young, it doesn't exist because the skin is wrinkled. And you don't have any hair. She doesn't have. Her hair doesn't look. Anyways, it's like, and then there was another guy's, over there like this, relaxed with his, his shirt opened up, and it just looked like he was trying to imitate a scene as if he was on a beach, sunbathing or something like that. And it was so sad to see, these people have no higher knowledge. It's really, really disgusting. Because they're like animals. It's not like an older cow has more wisdom than a younger cow. It's not like, it's the animals. It's not like an older animal is conveying some amazing wisdom to the younger people. It just exists, And just these people exist. And no sense of more wisdom, nothing. It's just obnoxious. They're not liked by their family. That's the whole point I couldn't get to. The Avanti Brahmana story. You just kicked out, when you don't provide for the family members anymore. They don't want to see you anyways. But they still hold on, they still cling on to it. My own grandfather, he gets so much pension, so much money. He has so much money. Nobody knows what he's doing with that money. And the daughters keep cursing him. What are you doing with all that money? What are you doing with all that money? How is it my money? And he's 94 years old. And he's 95, I think, this year. It's just... And every time somebody goes international, he starts boiling in envy. He's like, I wish I could also go. I wish I could also fly. You're 95. And he's been international also. It's not that he never went. Anyways, Hare Krishna.
And then one question that I had was, you were talking about how, when it's time for the parents to take on vanaprastha life, they kind of hand the family over to their children. So my question was that, how did the parents kind of inspire this sense of duty and renunciation in their children when they also have to give them this responsibility of this family, where they're like, yeah, I'm giving this up because I realize that, I've kind of done what I have to do, but I'm giving it to you. So how do you still inspire that sense of renunciation?
They renounced, right? That's the example.
But like
they did it, and therefore you will also get a time to do it. But right now, you're in the thick of everything, and you're a family man or whatever, and then you take up the responsibilities. So that's, by them doing that, that's the inspiration, that's the example. And you see that in the Sri Vaishnava families, that they're inspired by the father's example, that he actually took vanaprastha. He's going and living in the family, in the village, and worshipping the family deity in the temple. So I also will do. If I am a true son of my father, I will also do like that. That feeling comes, it's quite a rich culture. It's very nice. They hand it over to those children who are entering family life, if that's what you're wondering about. Those children who are not entering family life, they don't have to take up the responsibilities. Then the family people, when they retire, if the sons don't want to take it, sell everything. Just sell it. Sell it, and Prabhupada already gave the formula how Rupa Goswami split the wealth. Split it like that, finished. What are you still holding on to? I have to take care of the house. I have to take care of the house. My house. I have to be here. I have to be here. I have to be here. Why do you have to be there?
Prabhu, there's this in the Bhagavatam, there's a purport, Prabhupada's purport, where he talks about in some villages or tribes that the old people, when they're not taken care of, they're given to the dogs or something like that.
No, they have a feast.
They have a feast on them.
The grandfather.
Do you know where that's at?
I can't recall the moment.
That was just like describing like Rakshasas and
It might just be describing some tribal
No,
people.
it was describing household life.
yeah.
But I don't remember. I remember reading this.
If you can pull up the exact reference, we can discuss it, because I don't remember anything off the top of my head.
Because it's like he uses the
Because
word.
we have to also see if what you're quoting is accurate. Okay, anything else? Anything from the men?
A quick question: is it like when you take vanaprastha or like sannyas? You said that he couldn't see like the wife no more, but he saw the
Sannyas.
sons. Sannyas, yes. So can you see?
Vanaprastha, we just read, you can travel with the wife.
Right. Sorry, but can you see the daughters too if you're in sannyasi, or you can't see the daughters either?
You can see the daughters. Mataji's? She has a question.
For those who enter family life with the proper understanding of becoming detached, is there a propensity towards false renunciation? And if so, how can this be problematic? And I'm specifically asking concerning an artificial mood of detachment towards one's partner.
Yeah, we just read that. Prabhupada says that when one gets frustrated, he becomes angry with the poor wife and children. And where did we read that? Hold on. I think that was here. No. Okay, I can't find it just right now. But anyways, we just read that. Oh, that was probably in the 9th canto. Yeah. Nope. Okay, so anyways, the point is that one we're talking, first off, there is an age restriction here. The age is 50. We're not talking about anything before the age of 50. Now, for those who have, and we also understand from other instructions of Srila Prabhupada that this age of 50 sometimes might get pushed back to about 55, maybe a little later. But the point is that having accepted family responsibilities, one has to wait, especially for the children to get older. The moment the children are older and they are at an age when they can be independent, whether they have become independent or not, but they are at an age where they are expected to become independent, one can retire. That is not premature. Up to that point of time, it is premature. What determines whether one is premature or not? If someone is helpless, then one should protect them. But this is a especially important consideration until the age of 50. Until the age of 50, one has to do it. One has to protect those who are helpless. If one has entered family life, if one is already a renunciant from the very beginning, then one is not expected to protect because that is not one's problem. But when one has accepted responsibility of some people, once one has accepted that responsibility, one has to make sure that one does not leave those people under who have taken shelter of that of them in a helpless situation. Now there is another purport, another place where Srila Prabhupada speaks about how the wife and the children, they never feel that they are completely taken care of. Oh, what is this? How can you leave me now? Who is going to take care of me? Like this. But there is enough reasonable material arrangements, or at least things have gotten to a point where one knows that one has done everything that one can do in one's life and one is taking now retirement at that point. And this must always be done under guidance. It should never be done without guidance. There are always, even at that age, even one's spiritual master may not be there, but there are other god brothers. There are other god siblings that one should have been in devotee association, and so one should take guidance of other devotees who are obviously in a better position than them. And then that is not false renunciation. If one enters family life with the idea to become detached, it can lead to false renunciation if one is still contaminated with the mentality that one is the enjoyer. Because then one's detachment is also a sign of wanting to be an enjoyer. So the point is duty. That one has to perform duty up to the age of 50, but then at the age of 50, one gives up duty because that becomes a duty. To give up duty becomes a duty. But when it is your duty to take care of them and you are giving it up, then you are a rascal. You are still acting on the platform of being a sense enjoyer. Why is there duty? Because you have to perform duty whether you like it or not. That's how you curb that. That's how those who are entering family life, they are able to curb that nature to want to become a sense enjoyer. Because you focus on performing duties, and therefore among all the different ashrams, the grihasthas have the most amount of duties in Vedic culture. So many kinds of dharma. You have dharma for a guest, you have a duty towards a guest, you have a duty towards animals, you have a duty towards the king, you have a duty towards your children, you have a duty towards your wife, you have a duty towards society, you have duty towards the renunciants. So many duties in Vedic culture. Most of them are all for grihasthas. Okay, you do all these duties and you will enjoy a little bit here and there. But the idea is that you are focusing on duty. And then you will understand that actually the enjoyment is just frustration. And then because you've become attached to duty, now you will understand, now it's my duty to give up all my duties. So and devotees need to understand that by performing duties, they are actually becoming Krishna conscious. You have to perform duties in accordance with Krishna consciousness, of course. So Duty is very important, and that's the problem in non-Vedic societies. You don't have a conception. At least it was there when people were very attached to religion. So therefore, they say, oh no, for Jesus I have to, remain married. I cannot divorce, or these kind of things. Because that's what Jesus expects me to do. That's what it said in the Bible. Therefore, there was no question of do. That's why, even though in this concept of duty is very important, because it's a very powerful thing. And therefore, even though practically throughout the whole world, people got married, and they didn't check astrology because they didn't know astrology, even in all the Western worlds, but there was very little divorce, hardly any. Why? Duty. Were there not incompatible marriages? 99.9% of family life is unhappy. That's not just now, it was all the time. But now family life is completely broken down because there is no sense of duty. And this is the challenge. This is why we are in the ashram. This is why we're trying to get trained. Is there is a sense of duty. I feel this, I feel that. Prabhupada said, what is all the nonsense feeling? There is a letter to one Mataji about her husband and this and that, and Prabhupada, what is nonsense feeling? Nonsense feeling. They look at the feeling. What is your duty? You perform the duty, that's all. But they say that I feel. Because we've grown up in this feeling culture. I feel. And our minds are like this, and we bring that contamination everywhere. And we don't focus and get rid of it, then even if we're a devotee, because of our feelings, we ruin our family life. Because I feel. Right now, the husband, as Prabhupada says, the husband comes back from work, and the wife is supposed to say some sweet words and say something pleasing. The husband may be a little frustrated mind, but the wife, today I don't feel it. And then because of her feelings, she says something bad. The husband gets frightened out, says something bad, and starts a fight. What is the duty? Okay, this is what my duty is. I have to perform it, that's all. Whether I feel it or not, I have to come for Guru Puja. Whether I feel it or not, I have to come for Mangalarti. There is no question of feeling. If you feel only when you come for Mangalarti, then when will you come? Therefore, the whole idea in the ashram, we're getting trained to perform duty. Whether we feel it or not, we have a service. Okay, today we're going out on book distribution. We go out on book distribution. We feel it or not. If you feel it, then when will I feel? It's just nonsense. You won't feel any. Only we feel tamagun, that's all. We are great at feeling that. We feel it all the time. Morning, afternoon, evening. All the time we are feeling tamagun or rajagun. So this feeling, it takes us nowhere. This duty is the main thing. And that's what we have to cultivate. And when that one cultivated, there's no question of false renunciation. There's no question of premature renunciation. You understand your duty or you don't understand it. So that family life should be based on that. And family people have more duties than the other ashrams simply because to inculcate this aspect of duty in their minds, because there's still the idea I want to enjoy. No, here's so many duties. Okay, in the middle of this you try to do some enjoyment, otherwise you will be sinful. So the moment you marry, previously you didn't have to take care of a wife, you didn't have to take care of children, and there was no sin. But now if you don't take care of your wife and children, it's sinful. Now if you don't perform your duty, it's sinful. So if you are pious enough, you will not sin. So that's the point. At least we should have become pious enough in Krishna consciousness to not want to sin. Actually, this is unfortunately the problem. We don't care about sinning. We are all this horrible mentality we have. Okay, anyways, I was supposed to end this class early and go to the airport. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyo cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. I haven't been contacted yet. I probably leave now.
The body couple?
Oh, nice.